Well, thank you for joining in. I'm excited to have an opportunity. I just got through doing an interview on CNN, and I thought while I was set up, I would spend a little moment and visit with you and share something with you that I think is impactful and important, uh, how to defeat worry. And you might not need this today. You might not need it right now. You might not need it for what you're going through. But sooner or later, all of us go through times in life that are hard to bear, that are difficult, that sometimes bring you to your knees, that sometimes keep you up at night, sometimes gives you indigestion, sometimes affects your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, and even affects your spiritual well-being. In fact, worry is such a powerful thing, it can actually ultimately affect your physical well-being. So what's going on in your head will affect what's going on in your body. And you need to understand that it's sometimes the worry is more lethal than what you're worrying about. I'm going to say that again. The worry is more lethal than what you're worrying about. You're worrying about something that often can be fixed, but while you're worrying about it, it's doing all kind of damage to you. And the difficult thing about being worried, especially when you're a spiritual person, is sometimes you don't even want anybody to know that you're worried about it. You feel obligated to maintain this facade that suggests that nothing bothers you, nothing gets to you. You turn it all over to the Lord in prayer, and all of that's wonderful, all of that's good. But if you live long enough, if you just live long enough, you will go through some things that will try your heart, that will bother you. If you have children, if you have a marriage, if you have a business, if you have a company, if you're pastoring a church, if you're leading a flock, you'll find yourself in situations of being overwhelmed. And often at the moments that you feel overwhelmed, there's little to nobody to turn to, and you find yourself feeling really, really frustrated. I just posted something on Instagram. It's not my last post, but the one right before that, where I talk about 5 things that you can do that will help you with worry. And if you get a chance, run over there and look at them as a video. And then beneath the video, I talk about these 5 points. But in that format, I couldn't elongate and talk about it to the depth that I would like to. And so I thought I would jump on here in case there are people that are worried. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic, though that is certainly a backdrop for worry. But life doesn't stop because of the pandemic. So that doesn't, bills still continue to come. Marriages are still in trouble. Domestic violence is going up. Stress and fatigue is impacted by coronavirus. We didn't need that. We already had enough things going on to keep us up at night, and then this comes along and gets in there too, and it creates sometimes stress and emotional disorders are silent killers. You don't even realize how bad it is. And then other times you do realize. I see one of you talking about having a loved one in ICU. That's the kind of thing where it's traumatic, not only for the patient, but for the family. It's traumatic for your lifestyle. It disrupts everything going on in your life. It's traumatic emotionally because you have a certain amount of fear. You don't want to lose them. You're trying to walk in faith, and then you're criticizing yourself when you're not walking in faith, and you start going over and over and over and over again in your mind. And I wanted to list some things here. I listed 5 things you can do to maintain productive thinking. And number one is don't waste time on whose fault it is in a crisis. Blame doesn't fix anything. I never will forget years ago, I was in West Virginia and I came down I was riding my car over top of a mountain, and when I came over the mountaintop down into the valley, there was a terrible, terrible wreck. And I pulled over to the side of the road. I was a very young man. I pulled over to the side of the road, ran over to the car. The guy's windshield was busted. His head was bleeding. He had various lacerations. He was barely conscious. And I said to him, "Do you want me to call the police?" And he said, "No, call an ambulance." And it was an amazing thing that I will never forget, but it was a life lesson for me. He wasn't worried about who was to blame, who was at fault, who was going to get a citation. He just wanted to get better. So many times we have a tendency to focus on who to blame, not realizing that all the energy you're spending on blaming and trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong and proving that you were right and this shouldn't have happened to you and whatever it is that went on in your life, you're calling the police when you ought to call an ambulance. And so I tell you how ineffective blame is, even if you're blaming yourself. It doesn't matter who caused the wreck. It matters that I'm wrecked and my head is bleeding, and you have to prioritize when you're under attack what is most important and focus your energy on that. And blame is not important. Blame never fixed anything. So my first point, I'm going to say it again in case you're writing it down. Don't waste time on whose fault it is in a crisis. After the crisis is over, we might have a discussion about how to prevent this from happening again. We might get down to whose fault it was, and generally a lot of times fault is broad enough to be shared. A lot of times when you find out there's your side to the story, there's their side to the story, and then there's what really happened. So we don't have time to waste time on an analysis of fault when you're in a crisis. And I hope this helps somebody. Number two, if you find yourself spinning your wheels mentally, give your mind a break. Come back to it after some rest. Rest restores the mind to restoration. Okay? There's a reason restoration is called restoration. Sometimes you get to the point that if you're in a situation and you're going through a test and you find yourself spinning your wheels mentally, and I call it that because, again, in West Virginia, you would get stuck in the snow somewhere, and I don't care how much you put the pedal down, I don't care how bad you needed to go there, those wheels would turn and turn and turn, but that car was not moving because you were just spinning your wheels. And that's what worry is spinning your emotional wheels. You're going through the same thoughts over and over and over and over again, and you're just spinning your wheels. You're not getting any further. And I'm telling you something right now. You can spin your wheels for years. I've literally seen people who kept thinking about the same thing over and over again and thinking about it the same way and never gaining any ground and never stopped doing it and do that for years. All the while the enemy is stealing your future away, stealing the promises of God away in your life, causing you not to be as productive as you really could be, and you are literally spinning your wheels. So I want to deal with this, and I want to get down into the trenches with it a little bit because I think it will really help you. And the next thing I want to talk about is, well, before I do that, let me spend another minute on spinning your wheels. If what you're thinking isn't bringing about quantifiable results in your life, then you need to change your thinking. I put the pedal down. It should work, but because of the conditions you're in, it doesn't work. So you have to change the way you're doing things. Just pressing and putting more pedal down to the metal is not going to get you out of the ditch, no more than rehearsing the same thing over and over again. Some people don't know that they're not moving forward because they never measure their life. They never measure their life. So they don't know that they're not going forward. They just know that they got the pedal to the metal, and they just know that they get up every morning, but they don't notice that that Tuesday looks like Monday, and that Thursday looks like Wednesday, and that Friday looks like Thursday, and every day is basically repetitions of the same thing. You need to have measurements by goals of where you want to go in your life. And I'm not just talking about things and stuff and money. I'm talking about development as a person as well. Whatever the goal is, development as a Christian, development as a believer, development as a father. Do you have a goal for all of the titles that you wear? If you don't, you might not notice that you're not growing, you're not going anywhere, and it might be that you haven't defeated worry. Number 3, I want to give you this one. Irrigate your mind by talking to people who can share a fresh perspective, and don't argue with wise counsel, trying to exonerate yourself or indict someone else. Bring other people in your life who are more seasoned or who have been through things like that, who can shed light on it and perspective. Sometimes after you've thought about a thing over and over again, it might not be within the arsenal of your current information to know how to handle it. So when I say irrigate your mind with fresh perspective, sometimes getting out of your circle and out of your norm and getting around other people. One of the weirdest things I find in life is that pastors talk to pastors as a rule, doctors talk to doctors, lawyers talk to lawyers. We don't cross-pollinate enough, because sometimes when you start talking to people who don't do exactly what you do, but something similar to what you do, you can learn some things that you can drag back home into your life and make you better at what you do. It's no need in talking to somebody who has no understanding of your situation at all. So if you're a married person getting advice from a single person, that might not be smart. This isn't always true, but if you're a married person and all your girlfriends are divorced, their counsel might not be the best counsel you want to seek. You want to talk to somebody who's been successfully married for a number of years or survived being unsuccessfully married. How did you survive? How did you handle it? What did you do? You don't want to get counsel. The Bible says not to walk in the counsel of the ungodly. It's not just ungodly, but you don't want to walk in the counsel of people who have no evidence of victory in the area that you're seeking. I hope I'm helping somebody. And number 4, I'm almost finished. Train your mind to skim over the problem and focus on being solution oriented. I could scream this all day long. Some people just go over and over the problem. I can't believe it. I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe my son ran away. I can't believe I got a child in jail. And over again, what did I do wrong? I thought I was the best mother I knew. You're just going over and over. Skim over the problem and let's start focusing on being solution oriented. Training your mind to be solution oriented, whether you're a leader or an employee or just a person in general, is very important. I, as a employer, and I have a lot of staff, I'm not looking to hire somebody who's bringing me problems. I'm trying to hire somebody who's bringing me solutions. I don't want to marry somebody who's just bringing me problems. I want to be married to somebody that helps solve problems. And you can be that person. Even if you have not been, you can be. But you have to train your mind to be solution-oriented. If you're not careful, you will just bring people more and more problems, and eventually they'll get tired of you. When people get tired of you, they will let you go. So I hope you hear this, because this is important. It has separated mothers and daughters and fathers and sons, members from pastors, pastors from members. It'll tear up anything. People eventually wear out when all you got is bad news. So you want to train your mind to be solution oriented. All right. How can I resolve it? How can I make it better? How can I fix it? Not just bringing people more and more burdens. Number 5, some things are beyond your control. You have to know when it's over your head and not let your ego make you insist on I can handle it when you can't handle it. Some things are out of your control. For instance, this coronavirus is out of my control. Yes, I can wash my hands. Yes, I can practice social distancing. Yes, I can stay at home if I need to stay at home. Those things I can do. But what I'm seeing on CNN that's happening all over the world, I cannot do anything about that. I can't fix that. And so to carry that cross around as if I ought to do something, it just adds to my stress and my unhappiness. What do you do when you recognize that some things are out of your control? You turn them over to God. You pray for the people. You pray for the situation. You pray for yourself. You do everything you can to distance yourself from being a victim of the problem. But you can't fix that. Somebody dies, you can't raise them, no matter how much you love them. You can't fix it. Some things are out of your control. Know your limitations so that you don't spend your time worrying and feeling guilty about things you absolutely cannot fix. It's raining. I can't do nothing about that. I'll get an umbrella. I'm going on out there, but I can't stop the fact that it's raining. Somebody doesn't want to love you. They don't want to be with you. You cannot make people love you. Some things are out of your control. Turn it over to God. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's sad. Yes, you feel depressed. All of that. I'm not saying that you're not human and you don't have pain. You absolutely do. But you cannot make people love you. And it's not always your fault when things don't work out. So learn what you can learn from it. Correct what you can correct so you can be the best version of yourself that you want to be. Turn the rest of it over to God and keep it moving. I wanted to spend some time with you today, encouraging your heart. I think it is such a temptation to allow worry to overwhelm you when you look at your problems and your family's problems and the problems on the job or the lack thereof, and you turn on the TV and you're looking at national and global and political problems. It is so easy to get so inundated in trouble that you can't get out. I wanted to spend some time encouraging you, giving you these 5 principles. Going over to Instagram and take a look at our site. It's the Second Post on Instagram, and there's a video there. It'll give you further information on it. And this Sunday's message that I'm going to be preaching is going to help you with that as well. Love you. Praying for you. Yes, I'm doing more Facebook Lives than I normally do. I'm doing it because we're going through something, and we have to go through it together, and we have to keep one another uplifted and keep one another going. It's a human thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It's the thing that I'm called to do, and I'm glad to serve. I hope you enjoy the stream. We are still streaming. We are up and running. No, there's not a crowd in the building, but the building is filled with angels and the presence of the Holy Spirit, and I just keep right on preaching. I grew up preaching to empty rooms. That's not strange to me. So anybody who just thought I could only preach in a crowd and this and that and the other, all the crazy things people think because when they don't know, they just fill in the blanks. You got that twisted. I can preach right now in this room with just me and you. I can preach in a room with 3 people. When God calls you to preach, you just preach. I love you. I'm here because I care. I hope you're enjoying the stream. If you're not streaming another ministry, I want to invite you to stream us 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings, Central Standard Time, Wednesday night Bible class, 7 p.m. The church is still up and it's still going and it's still running. We're just doing it a different way. And God is shaking us out of our comfort zone. I've been preaching about that for 8 months, seems like to me, about being out of your comfort zone. But Lord knows I didn't know that this was coming to shake us out of our comfort zone. But God has got us out of our comfort zone, and we have to be innovative and we have to be creative. But we cannot sit here and die. Do not worry. That's what this is all about. Do not worry. It just doesn't fix anything. I'm not saying you don't have something worth worrying about. I'm not saying you don't have problems. It just doesn't fix anything. Let's be solution oriented. Let's make decisions. Let's keep it moving. And if you're in a situation where you can't move, survive it. If you lost a loved one, you can't raise them, you can't fix it, and your heart is broken, and you're wondering why, God, don't waste time on why. Focus on surviving it. Grief is something you have to survive because you can't fix it. So remember point number 5, turn that over to God. I love you. I'm praying for you. I'm here for you. Bishop T.D. Jakes, Potter's House in Dallas, signing out. Take care. Peace.